All right, so another belated edition of Space News. I've tried to keep up with this stuff, and it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing. I get a little bit behind, and then I think, oh my God, I haven't done it for a while. There's no way I can cover everything, and then I just put it off and put it off and put it off, and months go by and I don't do a Space News. And so I've had to decide that when I do it, it's not going to be a comprehensive thing. It's just going to be like what's current right now. I can't go back and try and fill in everything I missed over the months, okay? I was just scrolling back through my feed and like, where do I start? And I just kept being like, oh, but that's good, but that's good, but that's good. At a certain point, I just have to stop and start with something. So I'm going to start with the idea that recently, let's see, it was December 16th, I posted about how NASA got, for the first time ever, I don't know if it's the first time ever, but it's been a heck of a long time, that's for sure, that NASA was given more money than they asked for by Congress. Uh, and so that's good, but of course, there's strings attached. There's certain provisions that Congress is insisting on. One of them, I can't remember what the others are, but at the moment I can tell you that one of them is NASA must land on Europa. They were already planning to go and orbit it and map it and prepare to land, but now they want this money from Congress. They've got to actually, the first time they go, land something on the surface. I mean, we're ready to find out what Europa is like. So that's crazy, but that really shows commitment when they start throwing money at things. And in television, let's mention this really quick. Television is really getting on the bandwagon with hard science fiction, I'd say. We've got Kim Stanley Robinson. The Red Mars trilogy is going to become a television series about the colonization and terraforming of Mars. We've got Expanse, which just started on Sci-Fi, which portrays a solar system that's developed and colonized. So that's pretty exciting. In the pop culture side of things. Okay, here's another thing. Congress wants to accelerate the NASA habitation module work. That's one of the other things. And so, to get ready for all of this, the U.S. is once again producing plutonium fuel for deep space missions. It's been a while since we've had to. We've just been relying on our stocks. Oh, and interestingly enough, this is while we're moving into the private sector, Russia's going the opposite direction. They, around the turn of the year, around New Year's, they shut down Roscosmos, the space agency. It is now administrated by the Russian government. So it's a state-run space program in Russia now. People are speculating that Elon Musk will reveal the Mars Colonial Transporter plans. I don't know that there's really any evidence for that. Sometime in 2016, so I mean it's pretty open. We've got a year to see if that's real. The military tested a supersonic, way supersonic, Mach 20 aircraft. And it went Mach 20 and then it crashed. So that's crazy. The military continues to develop stuff, and we just don't really know what they're doing, Everybody talks about, space as like an international waters sort of thing and no militarization, but at the same time, everybody's making bills in their different countries or whatever, policies that say, we must be prepared to fight space wars. So that's scary. So SpaceX is not the only game in town here in the commercial, space flight stuff going on in the U.S. Virgin Galactic is making a comeback. They're unveiling their replacement Spaceship Two on February 19th. They had that crash where they actually killed a pilot, and they've been pretty quiet ever since, but they're getting back up on their feet. And Bigelow Aerospace continues to develop their inflatable modules, which I think will be useful. And here's something really strange. The space tourism industry is just, a whole different thing from what I usually pay attention to with space exploration. And one of these things I was not aware of is called the World View Experience. This couple, they met, they were a part of the Biosphere project. They were locked inside the Biosphere, and that's where they met, and I think, and fell in love. Maybe that's not true, but I know that they at least came up with the idea for this business model that they're doing now when they were in the Biosphere. The World View Experience is a balloon. It's like a high atmosphere, like a weather balloon sort of thing, with a capsule underneath. Right now they've done unmanned ones to take you up to the edge of space, basically. And so now the idea is that people will pay to climb into these things, and you'll spend a couple hours floating slowly upward at a walking pace until you eventually reach near space. And then the thing paraglides back down. I mean, it sounds like an exciting experience. People are excited. I am excited. It feels a little like, geez, we're still worried about but what I'm saying is that there's an article, and many articles, about the fact that half of the astronaut class, right now, that's getting ready to try out to be the ones to go to Mars are women. 50% of them are women. And I don't mean to downplay that. I think that's fantastic. What I mean to say is, God, it's about time, Here we are in 2016, and this is still a big deal that we're letting women have jobs that men have traditionally had. I know this is all over the place, folks, but here we go. Another thing. Please go appreciate Chris Hadfield, the singing astronaut, the Canadian astronaut who was commander for a mission of the International Space Station and recorded an album in space. The reason I mention is because David Bowie just died, and the one viral video that really made him famous was his cover of Space Oddity. A great cover. He's floating around in the space station. Check out the video, please. So they think that there might be an ice volcano on Pluto. They're pretty darn sure. They've got photographs of what is an ice volcano. That'd be the first time we've ever actually seen something we theorized about. And so now we're getting into the SpaceX stuff. And if you haven't heard yet, SpaceX tried one more time. I mean, they landed one on land. They landed one of their rocket boosters back on land, so it theoretically could be reused. Since it's the first one, it's a museum piece now. But it means future ones could be reused. They haven't landed one on their floating barge yet, and the barge is more useful because, as you know, most of the planet is ocean, and so it takes a lot less, math to make it land back on the launch pad, a specific launch pad on land, so they could do higher yield loads and higher velocity loads and not worry so much about the return trajectory if they could land it on a barge out at sea. And they just tried yesterday for the third time. I think it's the third attempt to land on the barge. And God, it's even closer. I mean, they just keep getting closer and closer. It didn't quite work, but the thing landed beautifully, and one of the legs gave out, and then it fell over and blew up. It's always this amazing explosion. And they say some ice may have built up that caused the leg to not lock. But I mean, we're getting closer and closer. Their problems are becoming more and more of a minutia, till they'll figure it out. And it's just truly amazing, and I think that the NASA and Congress and everyone really recognizes SpaceX's achievements. They just got a new contract for space station cargo, along with, so I think that's like 6 missions over the next year or something like that. But also, Orbital ATK got contract for some cargo missions, and the Dragon capsule from SpaceX and Orbital's capsule, they're both kind of traditional tin cans that go up and dock. But the really interesting one, a third company got a contract, and it was Sierra Nevada Corporation. And they have this really weird-looking unmanned, mini space shuttle thing that will dock with the space station and then actually come back down and land on a runway like the shuttle, which is unique. So I can't wait to see those things. And one last little bit of something I'm very interested in, that Philae lander that landed on the Comet 67P. Unfortunately, we have to mourn its loss. I mean, it did a lot of amazing things, but they were hoping that they could get a little more data out of it, a little more use, but the last-ditch efforts failed, and the scientists had to admit that it's a gunner. It's going to float off on that asteroid. The main thing they mourn is the fact that it probably still has some data in it they weren't able to download. So, scientists, they lost my data. So anyways, that's it. That's this edition of Space News, and please check in. I will try and be more frequent. Have a great time, and keep up all the spacey thoughts.